One of the great lessons that I was fortunate enough to learn when I was gathering all the information for this book, Secret Self-Made Millionaires Teach Their Kids, I interviewed over a period of 30 years. I interviewed over 1,300 self-made millionaires and billionaires. Just to give you some perspective, if you know the book Think and Grow Rich, which was written almost 100 years ago, say 90 years ago, by Napoleon Hill, one of the best-selling books of all time in personal development for sure. Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 rich people. I interviewed over 1,300 for this book. And one of the great things I learned was the saying that you've heard before, which has a lot of wisdom in it. It came from Socrates. And it's in the Bible as well. A lot of people have repeated it over the centuries. And it's all things in moderation. It's pretty wise advice. Think about it. Think about food. You know, food is great when you have enough, but if you have too much, then it's a negative thing. Money is not much different. If you've ever had more money, far more money than you needed at the time or you'll ever need, well, you know that's a really positive thing. And if you're lucky enough to live in a country and have a society like that's like exists in the first world where you can create that kind of wealth, that's fantastic. But all things in moderation. How much money do you really need? A lot of people hoard money. A lot of people have greed, right, around money, and they want more and more and more, although it tends to create a point of diminishing return very quickly. Now, if you've never had more money than you needed, you probably don't know that, but it really is true that you can only eat so much food, you can only spend so much money. You can spend as much as you want, but it only gives you so much in return, and after a while, it doesn't really mean anything. All things in moderation. Exercise is another one, right? We have a gym right down the street here from Bone Allen Mansion, and I was just over there today because we have a group here from out of town in my gym at the house here. And there's some of these guys that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's fine if that's what they like to do. But for most people, that would be overkill. That would be extremism. Extremism usually doesn't lead. Again, all these interviews with these very, very successful people, not that they know everything in the world, but it's been passed down for so many centuries that extremism in anything, too much of anything, good or bad, or fun, or anything else, or exhilarating or exciting, too much of anything tends to lead to either, destruction or just really no sense of fulfillment. All things in moderation. Ben Franklin repeated that as well. There's a lot of wisdom in this. And I bring this up because you think about it, it really affects every single area of our lives. Fitness, I talked about fitness, like working out, but also diet. Like we all probably want to be a little thinner unless you're like a supermodel or you were born with great genes and you're just naturally thin, which is great. And then typically people they want to gain weight. I have a few friends like that, maybe 5 or 6, and they want to gain weight. They're always talking about gaining weight because they can't gain weight very easily. And my mom is like that now. She's been trying to gain weight. She's 92 and she's been trying to gain weight for a while, but so she's thinking about it on the other side. But typically, if you're on a diet, you want to do it in moderation. Now, you can do it to an extreme, and it makes some people happy. But it's nice to once in a while have a splurge, have a hot fudge sundae, or have a pizza or something like that, right? Here's the bottom line of the whole thing, and this is something obviously you already know, but just as a reminder, you don't get forever. You don't live forever. So if you're putting all your time into work, time is one of the biggest things that people take to an extreme. Say, I'm working 24 hours a day. Now, if you have to work 24 hours a day, or a lot, maybe not 24 hours, but if you're working 18 hours a day or 16 hours a day or 14 hours a day because you have to, because you're having trouble financially, well, that's something different. But if you're doing it just to hoard wealth, I mean, if it fulfills you, then keep doing it. But consider the idea that while you're doing all that, spending your entire life chasing the next big thing, you're chasing more dollars, or whatever currency operates in the country in which you live, there's a sacrifice there. You're not being moderate, you're not exercising moderation, which is okay, it's your decision, but you're losing time. And remember, the clock is ticking. When I was much younger as an entrepreneur, I was always chasing. There were other people that chased more than I did, for sure. That's not even arguable, actually. I was going to say arguably, but it's not arguable. Definitely, there were people more ambitious chasing harder, but I was chasing pretty hard. And as I've gotten older, I'm crowding 60 years old, time is the most valuable thing, not money or really material things or really anything else. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm just saying that's the way I feel about it. I'm just asking you to consider this. That's the idea of this post. Consider all things in moderation. I'll tell you what, it's pretty good wisdom. Again, if you get fulfillment and satisfaction out of extremist behavior in some area and you're not hurting anyone else, God bless you. Keep doing it. If it really fulfills you, there are some people like that, and that's great. For most of us mere mortals, extremism typically doesn't work in anything, whether it's our diet, our money, our time, our relationships. You can spend too much time with someone. I've been married 38 years, and people ask me all the time, what's the secret? Well, I don't know the secret. I'm not a marriage expert or anything, but one of the things we do is we don't spend all our time together. We break it up. We have outside friends, outside relationships, and we take separate vacations sometimes. And I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I don't know. I'm just saying that's one of the things that's helped us, is because all things in moderation, because you can get sick of somebody too if you spend 24 hours a day with someone, and maybe you wouldn't get sick of them. But again, moderation seems to be one of those things. It's kind of like exercise. Like I used to ride my bike, really, really fast, as fast as I could, and time myself like I did when I was an athlete, pro athlete, trying to run 5-minute miles or 3 miles under 18 minutes. I did that for years and years, training as a professional athlete and as an amateur athlete. And now I ride my bike a couple miles a day when the weather's nice, and I do it nice and easy. Of course, I'm a lot older. I do it nice and easy, and I really enjoy the process. I enjoyed the training to some degree, but it's nice. Moderation is, there's a calm to moderation, some kind of satisfaction to it. Just something to think about. I'm not telling you this is the way it is, because I don't know the way it is. I'm just saying, in mental toughness training and critical thinking training, we try to look at the wisdom of the ages. Like I wrote about in this book. When people said, well, how do you know what all these people think? Well, I asked them. These are all one-on-one, personal, in-person interviews. These are not on the phone. This is not over the internet. There was no internet. I started doing this. Most of the time I was doing it. But there's a lot to at least considering these concepts, these psychological concepts that have been passed down for really millennia, and there's a reason they've survived. And I think sometimes, I know in my life, sometimes I've overlooked them. Race. Get up at 6 in the morning, go to bed at 12 and 12 at night, and sleep 5 hours a day, and go. And meanwhile, the clock is ticking, and I'm running out of time, just like everybody else is. No matter how young or old you are, you're running out of time. We're all running out of time. At the end of the day, we don't make it. So not to be morbid, but that's objective reality. So if that's the case, and we know it is, there might be some real wisdom in moderation. Just something to think about.